Just gotta make
Laptop.
sure we're live. And yes, we are.
Yo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rose and Rebirth Reviews, or I suppose I should say Rose. It's got the accent, so it's Rose.
Yes. Yes, sir. Rose. You gotta pronounce it correctly when you say it.
Okay. All right. And yeah, so we got a lot to talk about today. But before we do that, um look in the chat. There's a link to Rose's new video, Adam versus Zeus, Divinity and Immortality. Quite frankly, we need to
Yes.
pick a day where we just talk about that because the things that are in that is crazy. Really,
Yeah.
really good video. I think that was a good video.
Thank
Um,
you. I appreciate that.
yeah. So you know what? Just a little bit of housekeeping stuff. I also just uploaded this video, The Legend of U-Haul Bach. So whenever you guys get the
Ooh.
chance, you need to go look at, go check it out. I think it's not that long, like what, 5 minutes, very brief synopsis of U-Haul Bach, and I like that thumbnail. So anyway, but today we're talking about Zack Snyder today.
Ooh.
So like stay in
The
the background
boy.
for now, Bleach. And so the way I would probably do this is instead of like talking about the story from the start to finish, I just want and let me know if you think this will work. Going through the
Okay.
characters, and then as you're talking about the characters, you can go into spoilers and tell me, because then we can sort of get an idea of what happens in the story from just going from character to character. And yeah, are you cool with that? Going that route?
Yeah. Yep, that's perfect. That works fine with me.
Okay, so let's start from Bruce Wayne, Batman. Well, before we do that, I'm sorry. Give me your overall thoughts. What are your overall thoughts on the movie?
Oh man, I actually watched the movie twice, the same day it released. I started at 3 in the morning, but I kind of fell asleep. I woke up again at 8 or 9, watched the first time, took a break, came back, watched it the second time, and I can say after watching it 2 times, I will give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, it was really, really, really good. The cinematography was beautiful. The action sequences were really good, as from a Zack Snyder movie, obviously.
Right.
Uh, the characters, which was for me really the highlight of the movie, really kept me watching like 4 hours, because the way that the writers and Zack Snyder, how he portrayed every member of the Justice League was just fantastic. The pacing was really good. The dedicated time, every minute counted in the movie. There was no wasted time. The movie to me was just not, it was almost a masterpiece, a 9.5 out of 10. But we got a good amount of time to get into all that. But that's what I thought of the movie. It was
Okay.
really good.
Okay. I agree. I agree. I think the cinematographers was Fabian Wagner. Um,
Okay.
I know for a fact that he's the one who did Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards. He's the guy who
Ooh,
was
okay.
he was in charge of that, and I don't know your opinion of that Game of Thrones battle. That was, I could tell how this guy was hired by Zack Snyder because he's good. He's very good.
Really
Um,
good at his job.
yeah, and I pretty much have the same thoughts as you. Like I share the same sentiment. It was a really, really good movie. Probably Zack Snyder at his best. It's not as philosophical as Batman v Superman, in my opinion. Like Batman v Superman goes really deep into philosophical ideals and everything. This was much more tone, like as far as Zach is concerned, it was a little toned down in terms of like the dark and brooding, but it would still like you could feel Zack Snyder in this. So let's start from the characters then. I'll let you have the first say. Take your pick. We got a bunch of characters. Who do you want to go first? Take your pick.
Let's go with Batman. Since he's kind of the driving force of this movie. He kind of kicks off the plot. Even way back in Batman v Superman, he kind of kicks off this whole, like, basically this whole plot. Uh, Ben Affleck in this movie cemented himself as one of the best Batmans in my eyes. Not because of the action or anything that he did. It was more or less the role that he played. He kind of took a back seat when it came to fighting, but he was more or less the leader that the Justice League needed to be. And that to me is quintessential Batman. Even though he doesn't have abilities, or he's not as strong as the other members, his ability to rally a team and to get people to work together and plans and all that, for me, that gave me That made me really high on this Batman, and his motivation was, it felt real. It didn't feel like it was just put out there just for the sake of putting out there. It was rooted in his character and how Batman was looking at the world. It took his perspective from hating Superman to needing him, and it felt genuine. It felt natural, and for me, that's what set Ben Affleck and his performance really up there. I would give him a 8 out of 10 in terms of his performance as Batman and his portrayal and just conveying his emotions and everything. It was just, he just did a really good job. I love Batman's progression from the start all the way up until the end. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I thought that I've always loved Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne because he plays a really good Bruce Wayne, but he's even better when he's in the cowl, like really, really good. And I appreciate what Zack made him do because if Zack had written Batman to be like, it's funny in the entire movie, Batman does not fight Steppenwolf once. Not even once.
No.
And there was no way that Zack would be able to find a way to realistically have Batman actually go up against a new guy. Like it's not going to happen. But you still didn't feel that he wasn't doing anything. It still felt like he was being productive, which was very good. I do agree with you in that the catalyst for him sort of kickstarting the movie being his guilt to Superman. There's actually that scene at the start when Superman's dying. You can see the tears in his eyes, which is kind of sad. That because in many ways he blames himself. Like he pushed the circumstances to that point and everything. And this was a redemption. This was redemption for all those who maybe weren't a fan of what Zack was doing, of making Batman kill. It was all to get to this point because at the end of the movie, you see that he's standing on top of his war machine, I think is what it's called, and the criminals are like he just like he caught them and he has them handcuffed and whatever in a pile. He doesn't kill anymore, which is sort of like the idea where we were going all along. Look, Batman was amazing. He probably has the most screen time in the entire movie. And every time he's on screen, it's fun. His dynamic. I like how he's the leader. When they go to Star Labs, he tells Victor, clear this place out. And he's like, done. They listen to him. And he's the only one without any powers. And they listen to him. That's essential. It really is.
And that respect that they have for him, just like he didn't come in and try to intimidate anybody. He was really just his authentic self. And I believe when it comes to that, especially when it comes to recruiting, and this can tie to real life too, being your authentic self is how you get people to relate to you and want to do things for you. Not in a manipulative sort of way, but in a way that I see this person is exposing themselves to me in this vulnerable state. And I just want to follow them and listen to them. And obviously being Batman and Bruce Wayne helps, but I feel like at the core of everything, they respected his willingness to admit that he was wrong and to drive home that we can't do this alone. That was a very, very, very good point that Zack Snyder was trying to drive for this entire movie. You cannot do this alone. Without any one of these guys, they would not have beat Steppenwolf. They would not have won anything. And Batman was the one who drove that point home to everyone that we cannot do this by ourselves. And to me, even though that's not like the traditional Batman way, he is his own Batman. He is his own Batman. And he's, like you said, he's redeeming himself. And that was necessary. And that was executed flawlessly in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. There's this one line that they have him say, there are five. I mean, there are six, not five. There is no us without him. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's go.
I was all for that.
I was like, that was really, really good. I also do appreciate how they sort of give him, like Alfred making him the gauntlets to allow him to sort of, so he can hang. Like he's not going to do anything monumental, but he can hang. He can be there. And I mean, I don't know about you, but Batman with a gun is dangerous. He was sniping. Like he was like one of those characters who has like auto lock on because he was just sniping these parademons. It was ridiculous. And I do believe that it's those little things that matter to where at the end of the day, he's the one who gets into the flying fox to go take out that dome. Because if we're all like anime fans and we're always like, oh, well, what did they do? This dude, in terms of the final battle, so he goes in, takes down the shield, takes down the tower, lures the parademons away. And, inevitably, and then I think he's probably responsible for the most kill count of the parademons because everybody else had to deal with something, so he cleared the field. Like he
Yeah.
had stuff to do, and that's good. That was really really good. What do you think the plan, like the plan to siphon Victor and the whole final battle plan? Do you think he was the one behind it, or do you think it was Victor?
I believe I believe in going with and being consistent with the tone of the movie. I believe it was a combined effort of Batman and Victor coming up with this plan. Victor himself volunteered to do this,
Right.
so that right there kind of cements that Victor was involved, though he had a say in it, and that's what I think. Batman and Victor kind of came up with the plan, and I believe it was their trust in Aquaman and Wonder Woman and Flash to kind of execute and to kind of hold off Steppenwolf while the plan was being put into effect. And that's probably an underrated aspect of the movie that people probably won't talk about is the trust that he put in these guys to do what they needed to do. He wasn't trying to do everything by himself, which he normally tries to do. And that spoke volumes to me because it's like he not only is he walking the walk, not only is he talking the talk, but he's walking it too. He's letting these guys handle it, and he's trusting that these guys can do it. Even though he really doesn't know how powerful Steppenwolf is, he believes that Wonder Woman and Aquaman can hold them off while Victor does his thing. And Flash needed to, run around and do the whole thing while he sat back and just made sure that the plan was executed perfectly as a good leader should. You don't interfere with what's going on, but you intervene when it's necessary. And he played his role perfectly. Batman, that's honestly a perfect Batman in my eyes. Like if you broke everything down like that, you would think that's a perfect Batman. Like he does what
Right.
he needs to do when he needs to do it, and he does it efficiently. Like you mentioned with the auto lock, he does his job, he does it efficiently,
Yeah.
and you get the job done. So
Right.
he was perfect.
Yeah. What did you think of his because Zach included this sort of romantic undertone between him and Diana. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of it, but you can tell that they, these
That one
two
little
are
scene,
interesting.
when they
Yeah.
was looking at the computer, I was like, okay, that's kind of cute. I
Are you
like
cool with
that.
that?
I was cool with that because it kind of it calls back to the animated series where Batman and Wonder Woman they kind of did have a thing, and that's important. When you're adapting movies from comics and animated TV shows, I believe that the first key to success is getting a director or producer, whoever who knows what they're doing, or getting a team of people who knows the source material, that knows what they're talking about. And I believe even though it was a small part, it was enough for not the real fans, but like people who keep up with DC for a good amount. They know that like, okay, that's definitely something that we know about, but then we didn't have time to touch up on it because I felt like if they got into the romance and all that, it would take away from a lot of other screen time from other characters who desperately needed it and who I wanted to see give more spotlight. But it's a nice little nod to the shippers that are into that sort of thing. I enjoyed it, even though it was small. It did this thing, and then they went on with the movie, and that was perfect.
Right. What did you think about for example, there was one aspect of his character, in my review I mentioned that there's a chance that people might not like what Zach does with his character arc, with him being like, like he tells Alfred, for once I'm operating strictly on faith, not on reason.
Mm,
Some Batman fans might not like the sound of that because to them, Batman is purely logical. Like this guy, he like for him to take a leap of faith, even though I think it's more sophisticated and complex. But what did you think about it? Him going on the Flying Fox, he tells Alfred he'll be here. I know it. Alfred says, "How can you be so sure?" He says, "Faith, Alfred, faith." To where like he's sort of pushing this. Like, isn't does it sit well with you that Batman is the one who's being so hopeful?
it was funny for me. I actually enjoyed it because one, it was consistent with the character arc that he was going through at the time. Uh, Two, even though Superman wasn't there, I felt like even though this, I don't know if this was implied or anything, but this is just kind of my head canon. I believe that he kind of held like that kind of burden of responsibility to be the hope that the other people that they needed. You have to realize Cyborg, Flash, and to some extent Aquaman they have never really had to deal with like a world any kind of threat before, and Batman being brooding all the time. I don't believe that would have helped kind of like calm the guys down a little bit to kind of like, okay, I understand the situation that we're getting into, but we just have to have faith. We just have to believe. The only people that we have right here is us. We can do this together. So we just kind of have to just be faithful and just trust that everything's gonna go well. And that fit because even though that's not his typical role, it's the role that he needed to be in for that time. He needed to be that guy, and it was for the tone of the movie. It was good, and it was a little bit comedic too, to kind of like, oh, Batman's not using logic. Like it was a little bit funny for me. I chuckled at it, but I chuckled in the sense where it's like you're watching someone grow up like in front of
Right.
your eyes, and it's like,
Right.
dang man, Batman really is growing up. I'm proud of him, and people in this cemented Ben Affleck as up there as one of the best Batmans. Honestly, it's
Right.
just his progression and his character was just done so well, and I just
Right.
loved every part of it.
Right. And so I mean two more questions. So first question and then we'll move on. So first question, you were mentioning how his progression is going. Technically after this, he was supposed to go and battle Deathstroke. All right. He was supposed to
Mm, hmm
at the end of Justice League, it would set up his own solo movie, Batman versus Deathstroke. Of course, we're all campaigning so we can see it, but as far as his progression so far and the trajectory, where do you anticipate his character going? Because Deathstroke is coming for the kill.
Yeah, and that right there. That right there creates perfect. That creates perfect conflict. It kind of introduces someone like you said, that who wants to kill Batman versus like a Batman who's kind of falling back on that aspect. And in my eyes, I could see Batman progressing a lot more. Maybe him trying to convince Deathstroke that this isn't the way to, like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Or maybe he comes to terms with the fact that maybe he doesn't have to kill Deathstroke, but he does have to kind of go back a little bit and maybe hurt him just a good amount to kind of set the point across. But how he would go about handling that, I don't know, because it's tough to kind of go from this killer back from going from this killer to someone who doesn't kill, and then you're being presented with a situation where you might have to kill someone. It's good character, like it's like a good wall for him to try to overcome.
Right.
And
But it only works if he doesn't.
it only works if he doesn't, and that's the issue right there. It only works if he doesn't. And what people want to go to see a Batman movie, Batman versus Deathstroke movie, where Batman doesn't kill, that I believe is the core issue right there. But just as a character, for me, I would love to see how he handles that, because that's an interesting character, like two character archetypes just colliding right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I just had to give an answer as to how I think he would go about dealing with Deathstroke, I believe that he may try to convince him to work against Lex Luthor and whoever hired him. But how would he go about it? I have no idea. I
Okay,
have
okay,
no
because
idea.
we know he's alive in the Nightmare timeline, and along the way they sort of
Yeah.
had to come to terms with their differences, and so
Mhm.
maybe the battle is such that there's a clear winner, but Batman doesn't kill, because I feel like Batman has to refrain from killing, or else it'll be character regression yet again.
Yeah.
So and final question in relation to Batman: if Superman's on the field, who's the leader, Batman or Superman, according to this universe?
According to this universe, I still believe it's Batman.
Okay, I agree.
Superman is the symbol of hope, but Batman is the one that we rallied around, that the Justice League rallied around. Superman is there to kind of represent that. He is the living embodiment of the faith that Bruce put into these guys. Now, Superman strength wise, obviously there's no contest, but I believe like emotional wise, I would rather turn to Bruce to kind of get me up to snuff on everything rather than Superman. And this isn't like a detriment or like a any type of negative thing towards Superman at all, but it was just his presence in the movie. I'm not gonna say it wasn't necessary, but it wasn't as profound enough to where it was. I'm like, okay, he's the leader now. When Superman arrived, it's like, okay, Bruce's faith was realized. Now that Superman is here, it's kind of like almost game over at this sense
Right.
for us. But Bruce kind of let them believe that he's coming, and when he did, that kind of lets everyone know that, yeah, we can trust what Bruce says, and stuff will turn out all right. Stuff will turn out all right. So I would, if I had to pick a leader, I'm going with Bruce over Superman.
All right, then. So while we're on the topic of Superman, Superman's up next. What do you think of his character arc in this movie?
Superman's character arc in this movie is, in my eyes, probably one of the weakest.
Sure.
Because I believe Man of Steel, you have to remember, Superman had an entire movie dedicated to him, Man of Steel. And I believe that set the groundwork for everything. But with Superman, Superman's a little bit of a different character. You really can't hold him to the same like character standards as someone like Batman, Flash, because Superman kind of he's a simple character. He is the hope of humanity. He is the bridge between two worlds. He's
Right.
kind of he kind of is what he is. And there really isn't too much that you can do to progress his character outside basic like love interest stuff like that. Now, obviously, you can get into the deep philosophical things with Superman. You know, he's the whole thing with him holding back, which was, and this is one thing that I really did enjoy about his character arc this movie. Even though it was one thing, it was still pretty significant when he was revived and he came
Right.
back and he had his moment with Lois and his mother. He appreciated. Like he deeply appreciates the life that he has now, and he said
Right.
around he was like, I have a second chance, and I'm not going to waste it. And
Right.
it showed through his actions, because typically Superman, we all know he holds back a lot because he doesn't want to hurt people. But when
Right.
someone comes to threaten your planet,
Right.
you
He
know,
wasn't
he's
playing
like,
it.
he wasn't playing. He literally put on the black suit, which is I believe it's the Kryptonian version of putting on black Air Force One.
Right.
He put on the black suit. When he showed up on the scene, it was literally Steppenwolf. I'm here to beat you up, and this is what's going to happen. And
Right.
that's what happened. And him not wasting that second chance to come in and ensure that the world that he just got back wasn't going to be destroyed was beautiful. But it kind of wasn't like the level that I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't a negative. Like, it definitely wasn't a negative at all. I don't believe there were any negatives in this movie, in my eyes. Maybe the
Right.
dialogue was a little bit. Maybe the dialogue was the weakest point, but even then, the dialogue was really, really, really well. So there's like no negatives whatsoever. But yeah,
Right.
Superman for me was a really good character, but he didn't. He obviously didn't have enough screen time to develop. And
Mhm.
there isn't but so much that you can do with him that really hasn't that would I'm sorry, I'm kind of a little brain fart right now. That would kind of circumvent the plot and the tone that Zack Snyder was going for. But
Yeah.
Superman was a really, really, really good character. He did his job and he did it well, just like he always does.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of what you said. Even though he's not in the movie until the very end, you can feel his presence from the start. Like, you
Yes.
know, the world is mourning. Sort of in many ways, the world in Zack Snyder's Justice League and BVS and Man of Steel mimics like our real world in our perception of Zack Snyder's work, in a sense where
Mhm.
everyone hated it, and Batman v Superman, everybody hated Superman, and then he died, and then Zack Snyder left, and then you had to see what was left. We were left with Justice League, and they were left with a world without Superman, which is that was the calling point for Steppenwolf to arrive and the mother boxes to awaken. And then he comes back, and now everyone sort of has a newfound appreciation for Superman, and we have a newfound appreciation for Zack Snyder. Like, Zack Snyder is literally Superman. The story is mimicking our real world. And I really appreciated that because they made the point to drive it home that, and sort of like one of the biggest takeaways from Batman v Superman on the philosophical level was that, Lex Luthor as a character, he was like the one character who's trying to take down this idea of God being, Superman, where he's trying to, he has this famous phrase. Just before I hopped online, I saw it on an Instagram page where if God is all powerful, he cannot be all good. And if he's all good, he cannot be all powerful. I was reading the comments, and a lot of people in the comments were saying, wow, trying to sound profound but not saying anything at all. And I was shocked. Like, do you guys not understand what he's trying to say? Which is like one of the biggest issues with Zack Snyder's movies. Sometimes people don't get it. But I really appreciated that in this movie, sort of the philosophical continuation was that what happens when this god figure is now gone. Now Earth is defenseless. Now the mother boxes are awakened. Now danger is coming. And now you have to sort of go and try to revive this god figure, which, people talk about Zack Snyder's symbolism. It's there, like Zack does Zack things. But in any case, for Superman, I really enjoyed once he showed up and once you saw what he did to the league. Like it just it just goes to
It
show
was
you how. I mean, I will say this: if Diana's holding back when she hasn't even drawn her sword. So like because I've seen
yeah.
people talk about, oh no, like Diana was not trying. She wasn't even trying. She really wasn't. If she hasn't drawn her sword, clearly she's not trying. And but my goodness, this dude put the beat down on the entire league on his own without trying. Like this man is unfair, literally unfair. And it
He's
just goes to show
a
you,
walking cheat code.
right, how much of a moral boost it is when he's on your side. Because the moment this dude enters the field, Steppenwolf, and here's one thing I appreciate. Steppenwolf had not lost a 1v1 battle up to that point. After that point, if Diana is fighting him alone, he wins. Aquaman, he wins. Together, they're sort of keeping up. But the moment this dude drops, I'm like, yo, he was destroying him. It was so I felt sad for him because they were ganging up on him. Everyone was just ganging up on poor Steppenwolf, beating the bleep out of him. It was crazy. And look, and probably the crowning moment of it all was when the battle's over and he reaches down into like the darkness to pull Bruce out. They're trying to get up to the top, and he's the one who helps Bruce up to get him up. And it was just symbolic of the fact that Superman's existence is what like brought Bruce back from the darkness. And they stand there. He doesn't say anything. He just gives him a nod. And like you get it, like you just get it. Like now these guys are like they're it. And you see the scene where Bruce gets the farm back. Like these guys are fine. They've settled their differences, until we know what happens to Lois and Darkseid and whatever. We know what happens there. But like finally, we sort of, people wanted this, and Zack showed you that he didn't have a problem with Superman and Batman being friends, but he had an issue. How do you get there? And this was how he got there. And I think, for what it's worth, the journey was worth it. I just wish Warner Brothers had trusted him more. But overall, so what's your overall grade? You gave Batman an 8. What do you give Superman?
I'll give Superman a 7.
Okay.
Like I said, he did his job. He did his job. The scene that he was in, you could feel it. Like it's like when Superman is the core focus of a scene, he commands it physically,
Right.
just everything. But just if given enough screen time, I probably would have gave him a 10 out of 10 because I gave Henry Cavill Superman a 10 out of 10 in Man of Steel. So
Right.
just from a lack of screen time, and he didn't have enough dialogue for me. It was just a 7 out of 10, but that's not a detriment at all. That's just you just didn't have enough time to really showcase your skills and what you could do. But he's a 7 out of 10 for me.
Got you. Okay, let's move on to the next character. Next, we have Aquaman. What do you think of this, Arthur Curry?
Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. Actually, his character arc will probably go a little bit under the radar. Because one, the stigma around Aquaman, he's the butt of everybody's jokes. He can only do stuff in water. But his character arc is really, really telling. And it spoke to me, and I believe after this, it will speak to a lot of people as well, about Arthur running away from his responsibilities as king of Atlantis. From the outside perspective, from people on Earth who live on the land, he is seen as like this almost godlike figure, incredible strength. He's incredibly handsome. I could say that objectively. He just commands like a presence when he's in the room. But on the surface, well, underneath the surface, literally and metaphorically, he's really just a big kid.
Right.
He's someone who's been thrust into a position that he was running away from, and because of that, he wasn't ready to take on that mantle. So this movie, I believe, was a perfect opportunity for him to kind of sit back and watch someone else lead. Because this is a quote: in order to be a good leader, you have to first be a follower. You have to watch someone lead. And I believe this arc and his character arc in this movie, even though he really wasn't the main focal point of the movie, just Batman once again influencing someone. showing him that you can be a leader. You can come from anywhere. You can, it doesn't matter what happened in your past. The only thing that matters is right now, having trust and faith in your abilities and the people that you trust around you. And just even though it was a small part of the movie before they got into the plot or whatever, that was a arc, that was a character arc that I was really like interested in and piqued my interest because it touched up on some real issues. And I gotta give props once again to Zack for drawing parallels to a lot of issues that a lot of people go through, but they just really can't put into words. And he was able to put it into this movie for people to watch. And a lot of people they were able to project themselves onto Aquaman. You know, a lot of people they tease the butt of the joke, but it's like we're not really all that much better than him because I've come to realize we're a lot of adults are really just big kids who are still trying to learn how to deal with the world. And Arthur, he kind of has the burden of having to protect the world on the surface, but also having to protect the sea as well. And that's a heavy burden for anybody. Really, it's a responsibility that a lot of people don't have. They don't have to worry about that, but he does.
Right.
And I believe that his character and just how he went about it, it was his reaction to everything was realistic. Him coming to eventually save the Justice League when they, I think, believe first fought Steppenwolf without Superman, and when he came to save him, that was kind of like his stepping up. Like, okay, I'm here because I want to, and I'm here because this is the right thing to do.
Right.
This is what I need to do as the king of Atlantis because it is a worldwide threat, and I gotta give props to him for stepping up and fighting and being one of the people to fight Steppenwolf and just taking that initiative to join the team and be a team player versus coming in and acting like you're this big macho dude. Because even though like just physically looking at him, he's probably up there physically with Superman in terms of, like his body build, but
Right.
he was quiet. He played the back role, but he played his role really, really well. So
Yeah.
I gotta give him an 8 out of 10, not because of his portrayal, but just because of the issues that was covered and how he was able to portray like realistically how someone will react when put in a position of responsibility and power that you don't want or you're not ready for. So I gotta give him an 8 out of 10 for his involvement in the movie. It was really good.
Right.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Right. I would have to agree with that as well. I think Zack needs a lot of props for no, I don't know that a lot of people in Hollywood have done this, recasting Aquaman, doing away with the whole blonde hair. It's like screw that. Get me Jason Momoa. Like get me Mr. Jason Momoa. This huge dude who no one is gonna make fun of Aquaman when you look like this. Like this, you're not gonna make fun of him. Look at this dude. And it was such a ballsy move, and it's such a Zack Snyder move too. He doesn't give a blade. He just does whatever. But I did appreciate his character arc in this. I do like, Volko coming into, giving the trident, and, initially in that scene, he refuses. It's just that inevitably he shows up. So but and one of the reasons why I appreciate the fact that Zack cast Jason is because when you look at Jason from a physical point of view, just what he looks like, you don't think he looks like he's very intimidating. He looks intimidating, which is one of the funny things about Jason, the character. Like he looks like a really scary dude, but then when he starts talking and hanging out, you just realize that he's like he's a chill guy. And I feel like that's what happens in the movie, where Aquaman has this facade where he looks like this, when he saves the fisherman, he drops him on the table, grabs the glass. He's like, it's on him. He just walks out the door, a loner. But when you realize that when Cyborg is starting to go through all those things and his father dies, he's the only one who's sort of understanding what's going on. Like there's this scene with Flash in Batcave where he's the only one who's asking, is Victor doing okay? Flash says, yeah, he want to be alone. And he's the only one who's realizing that we're asking a guy who just lost his father to go up against the most powerful boxes in the technology in the universe. It's not fair. And then Flash says, I thought you said you didn't care. And he says, I never said that. And he just walks away. So you realize that this dude, Bruce talks about all the people, he goes around helping people all the time. And when I watched back that scene, the way Bruce talks about it, with the Icelandic village at the start of the movie, it's not something he did once. He does that all the time. There's a stranger who comes on the king tide when people are hungry. Like this isn't a one-time thing. He constantly remembers the small village and makes sure to bring fish every year. Like he's a genuinely good person underneath it all, and I just appreciated the way that that happened because, you if you blink, you'll miss it. Like you'll think he's just another guy in the league, but he's really there offering something. And I think Zack left. I can tell that Zack left a lot of the character development for James Wan to do in the Aquaman movie, and you can see that he in the movie he sort of goes on his character arc. So Zack he presents who he is, he tells you what he's about, what he wants, how he is, and he leaves it for James Wan to take it from there. And I just think we should point out that he's the one who stabs Steppenwolf. He's the one who initiates Steppenwolf's demise by stabbing him through, from the back, which was a ballsy move from the back too. I was like, "There's no honor here, bro. From the back, I don't even care." I like that. So,
is there any honor? I mean, where's honor when someone's trying to destroy your world? You gotta take him out.
Right, you got to take him out. What did you think of his dynamic with Diana?
It was really
good. That
they
scene in the cemetery when they were talking.
Yeah, I actually want more Aquaman and Diana interactions because their characters are a lot more alike than people may first give credit when you first look at them. Like you said, if you blink, you might miss it. Even though it was a small scene, just the burden of responsibility that they both kind of share is similar. They
from two
both
worlds,
kind of have from two different worlds. You have Wonder Woman, the Amazon queen, just coming from this all female. Then you interacting with this man of man kings. It's just them both coming to terms with the fact that they have to work together, and that this is the age of heroes. Like we have to set everything aside, and we have to work together. That was growth for both of them. That Wonder Woman, Diana, her childhood was kind of just, oh, men are evil, and Aquaman's his arc with, he doesn't even want to be king. They both came to terms in their own way that Aquaman as a diplomat, as a king, because as a king, it's not just about how much power you have. It's about being able to inspire others, being able to know when to attack, like with Steppenwolf, and know when to be diplomatic, and just kind of coming to we have to work together. That scene was really good, and it's probably not going to get enough credit as it's due, because that's like getting over 1,000-year just of people just hating each other, just people just refusing to talk to each other, and they just ended it just like that. It was like, we have that, and then there you go, it's over. All that dispute, all of that, at least between the two people who were high up in their hierarchies in terms of the society that they came to an agreement that we can work together, that it doesn't have to be like this. And I believe that will trickle down once they eventually go back and they have their own separate stories again. That influence will still be there. It will be the driving force as to, I guess eventually when Darkseid does come back, and that's going to be huge. So that for me, kind of that set a pin. I'm gonna put a pin in that T, because it's that's going to be important later on. I don't know how long later on, but just their being an adult, really, that was important for the movie, and it was important and it set the overall tone of the movie too. We can't do this alone. We have to work together in order to defeat him. So it was perfect. That scene was beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that, quite frankly, there is a Flashpoint story, not to say the upcoming Flash movie, but in general, the Flashpoint story where Diana and Arthur are married, even if it's for a brief time or whatever. I think that was a nice little seed that was sown right there, because of their interaction. But while we're on the subject of Wonder Woman, someone who might just be the MVP of the movie, what did you think about Diana Prince, Wonder Woman?
Diana Prince, Miss Gal Gadot. Oh my goodness, man. She is a very good Wonder Woman. She's a very good Wonder Woman. And for me, the highlight of the movie for Diana wasn't anything that she did near the end, it was the beginning. That beginning scene where she saved that school of people, and not only showed her power, which was very needed. People need to know how powerful Wonder Woman was. She took down the terrorist group or whatever, But this when she spoke to that girl, after she saved her, and she asked her, "Can I be like you someday?" And she said, and when she said, "You can be anything you want to be," I was like, "That is how you do a strong female character right there. That's how you do that. Not only is she strong physically and like just emotionally, but like she is a hero. She feels like Wonder Woman." And to me, even though personally I felt that like she kind of like leveled out as the movie progress, because one, I don't feel like that she needed too much more character development. Like she obviously needs character development, but not to the point to where you want to make her the focal point, because she did have 2 movies prior to this. So she's coming in with 2 movies of experience, so she really doesn't need to have that much screen time. But just when she was there, when her strength was needed, she was there. When her scene when she went to talk to Victor, that was very necessary because she was able to relate to him as well. Losing everyone that you've loved, she was able to relate to him, and that was a catalyst for Victor eventually coming back and helping them. She might have saved everybody, and I don't believe she's going to get the credit that she deserves, because if it wasn't for Diana going out to look for Victor, who knows? Who knows what would have happened? Because Victor was in a position where he was in a very, very, very dark place, and he was on the right path. He was helping people, but they didn't need him to help small people right then and there. There was nothing
Right.
wrong Victor was doing, but he just needed someone to pull him out of that darkness and let him know that you're hurting and I understand that, and I'm here for you, but we have other stuff to do. And that talk right there, I'm like, yeah, nah, that's gonna be important. And I have to give Diana. I mean, she was a 10 out of 10. She was a 10 out of 10. Honestly, she wasn't the focal point, but she was whenever she was on screen. Not only because I just love Gal Gadot so much, but just she was herself. She was the Amazonian princess. She was everything that they needed, that Justice League needed them to be. She obviously Barry. She fell in love with her. She was the romantic interest for Bruce for a brief moment. She was actually the one who was like, "F this! I'm cutting off Steppenwolf's head since you guys don't want to do it. I'll do it because he killed my people. He's going down." She's the enforcer. She's the romance. She's the leader in a sense because she's the wisest. I believe she's the oldest as well. Like when you look across the board, she filled her role perfectly. 10 out of 10. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, every 10 out of 10. It was perfect.
Yeah, I would. Well, I don't know about 10 because like Gal Gadot's acting is the weakest part of Wonder Woman's character in general. I don't think she's a particularly good actress, but from a character arc
I can agree with that.
perspective, I don't think she, like you said, like she does a lot of. I think the reason why, because when the more I think about it, she doesn't change. Like from the start to the finish, she doesn't necessarily change that much. But because we've been starting for Warrior Wonder Woman since 2017, which is why seeing in this was so refreshing for us. That's why we're like, like I'm talking about. Oh, maybe she's the sleeper MVP. Well, I don't know that you could be the MVP without having a character development anyway. So it's just good to show you how starved we were for a Warrior Wonder Woman, which you mentioned her second movie in 1984. We don't talk about that because we know what happened in that movie. That poor Mr. Handsome guy and what happened to him.
Oh
Terrible.
man.
I was like, what were
Oh
they thinking? That
Jesus.
movie, oh my God, so bad.
I'm not.
It was
I
so
don't put
bad.
that as canon. I'm sorry. That's not canon in my eyes.
Oh my God. And one of the funniest moments was an interview where I think they were asking Diana why they were asking Gal why Diana's not using a sword or killing her opponent, whatever. And she was saying, "Oh no, Wonder Woman isn't someone who kills, or I don't think we should see it." And it's just funny because like the next movie we see her in, she's like, "Nah, man, chop this dude's head off. Like, no, you're going back in a body bag with decapitated. We're cutting off your head," which is funny. But like Wonder Woman has never looked better. Zack Snyder, like say what you want about Zack Snyder. This dude knows how to do Wonder Woman. This man knows how to do Wonder Woman. And she was the best part of Batman v Superman. She was one of
Yeah.
the best parts in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I don't know if you heard the rumor that Warner Brothers might want Zack to do Wonder Woman 3. I don't know how much.
Ooh.
I don't know like if it's actually possible, But after watching this movie, you can see why some people would be like, "Yo, maybe we should give Wonder Woman to Zack Snyder because Zack will do like Zack is gonna do some wonders. He's gonna do some numbers with Wonder Woman.
Was that a pun?
Absolutely."
Was that a pun?
Yeah.
Was that a pun?
Oh, but yeah, but look, it was she was great. I think she was like the emotional anchor. She was feminine
Mhm.
without coming off as you know, like I don't think anybody watched this and felt like they were being jammed with like political ideologies or what's it called, or like feminist agendas. Like she look 100%. Diana is literally coming from an island where there are all women. 100%, she's going to look at things from a feminist perspective, but it's organic. It doesn't come off as forced or fake. It's very natural, and you end up even rooting for her. Like, not one person complained that Diana got the final kill on Steppenwolf. Like, no one's here like, oh no, it should have been Superman, or no. Everyone is fine with it because that's just the way they portrayed her character. We're all on her side. We truly are, and I really appreciate the way. Like, you got to give Zack credit for that, because without Zack doing it the way he did, as you saw in Wonder Woman 1984, things wouldn't have worked out as well. So I really appreciate that. I appreciated that. Her dynamic with Bruce, really good. Dynamic with Victor, really good. Dynamic with, she doesn't really interact with Barry that much. He's like the one character she doesn't interact with a lot. I think there's only one moment where when they're doing the plan, Barry says, with the power of love. Oh no, like Barry makes a joke and he looks at her, but then she doesn't laugh and he just stands there awkwardly. That's like the most interaction they get in the entire movie.
Actually, actually,
And
there
she
was a
saved.
moment. There was actually
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
moment when I believe they were fighting Steppenwolf for the first time when Barry she had lost her sword and Barry had run around and he
Ooh,
had like tapped it back to her. I don't know if
right.
you'll count that because they didn't. I don't think that counts as an interaction, but there is definitely
Right.
like a moment where
Got
it's
you.
like, yeah, they definitely have like a moment or two. But nah, I still agree with you on the fact that yeah, it's kind of hard to say like Wonder Woman and Barry. They really didn't interact all that much, but that was still fine
R-
by me. She
Right.
still played her role.
Right. And hello, Quiver Jones. We're not going in order of scenes. We're going in order of characters. So we took care of Batman. We took care of Superman. Now we're on Wonder Woman. We're about to go into I think I don't know who's next. Is it Flash or somebody's next? But we're about to go into that. But overall, yeah, I think this was a slam dunk. I think a lot of people, because I don't know what Patty Jenkins is going to do with Wonder Woman 3, but after seeing this, people are going to have a problem if Wonder Woman shows up to her next movie without her sword and shield. Enough with this lasso
Yeah.
nonsense. She's a warrior. It's fine. Like, it's actually fine. And here's the thing. I want to get your opinion on this. Where do you think Wonder Woman 3, Wonder Woman story should go? Because I've had enough of like the old, the first one was like in World War One and the second one was in 1984. I've had enough of like the prequel, like old stuff. How about we give her something new to do? Where do you think they should go? Because I've had an issue with the fact that they're not. Like, Wonder Woman is the gateway into the Greek mythology of DC. I don't know
Mm.
why they don't want to go there. Like, this lady from Zeus to Ares and Artemis, and like, go there. Just go there and tell a story about the Greek gods and her. What do you think? What do you think?
I believe I would go the route of introducing the other gods because, as you mentioned, Zeus and Ares, they obviously acknowledge that these two beings exist in this universe. So I believe that might have been like a hint into where they could go. Zack Snyder really, really, really did a excellent job of laying the groundwork for other people, for other directors to come and just like siphon off of the stuff, the groundwork that he laid for them.
Yeah.
There's so many routes that you could go with this movie. If it was me, I would focus on a Wonder Woman movie where you introduce the pantheon of the other gods, not kind
Hmm.
of going a Marvel route, but kind of going like a route where there is this other world that you can explore. It doesn't have to just be time based or just earth based. You have these
Right.
other gods and their influence on the world in DC is very, very, very prevalent. I'm
Hmm.
probably going to go a
Hmm.
little bit. It's going to sound like I'm going like on a sidetrack, but I'm gonna wrap around to it in a little bit.
Right.
I don't know the exact story, but referencing back to the dark side, the new gods. I'm pretty sure you know about it. The new gods, they are living concepts. They basically represent different aspects of the human world. And I believe I talked about concepts in my Adam versus Zeus video. So this is like perfect. Uh, but there was a story where basically evil new gods actually did defeat I guess the good new gods, and in turn, at the same time, evil on Earth was was triumphing over good for the first time. I believe the story was the day that evil won, or
Okay.
something like that. It's the story like the day that evil won. So that story, I don't know if they're represent, but that just kind of leaves an opening as to where you can have these other gods influence the world and have Diana. So she's perfect. She'll be the perfect main character to go into this new era of just introducing the god. Since Darkseid is a new god, it would be perfect. Like just delve a little bit deeper into what the new gods are and how they influence the world, while not really giving too much in a sense where you kind of keep like this air of mystery around them. But they are there, they are prevalent, and they do have an effect on the world. So if it was me, I would go the route of introducing like Zeus, Hera, all of that. Just you have an entire pantheon to work with. The possibilities are limitless. If it was me, introduce the other gods and have Diana kind of figure out how to do that. I can't come up with the plot of the movie right here, but have her do something with the other gods and then just work from there.
Right. Yeah. I have to agree. There was this fan idea for a story where, you know how when we see the nightmare timeline, uh,
Hmm.
Darkseid. Well, we don't know how she dies, but Wonder Woman's dead, and she's like lying on a pile of like flames, and they have like the coins on her eyes for the river Styx and all that stuff, which is consistent with the Greek mythology and whatever. And it was just one of those funny things where I don't know if they would ever do this, but it would be so cool if Diana dies and she goes to Hades, but like she fights
Ooh.
her way out of Hades and grabs Steve Trevor while she's down there. I don't know how it would work because then like it would be a timeline where Batman and Steve Trevor are there, and so like it might be dodgy. But like the entire idea that she goes to Hades and like this lady warrior princess literally fights her way out of hell to come back. Like that would be like, bro, take my freaking money,
Like
take my
literally
money.
take my money, bro. Like
That is
you want to
so
talk
cool.
about a strong female character, like the
Yeah,
motivation is there.
yeah.
You have the technology to do a very good fight. Like the writing could be there. Her like
Hmm.
Diana as a character, she can carry a movie by
She
herself.
can.
We've
Yeah,
shown that in Wonder Woman. She can carry a
yeah.
movie by herself. So it's definitely
Right.
possible. I would love if that were to happen. Now you got me excited. Now I want now
Oh
I
my good,
want it
like
now.
so many stories for her. Like basically God of War as Wonder Woman. Like let's do this. Let's go kill all these gods. Cool. Let's go into another version of a god, the god of speed, Mr. Barry Allen, the Flash. What do you think of him?
10 out of 10. And he was the MVP in my eyes.
So many
He
MVPs.
Yeah, like that just goes to show you how good each character really was. Like
Yeah.
it's but just like favorite scenes, favorite moments, like this favorite character character portrayal, all that for me Barry was just the best out of all of them. Not to say he gave the best performance, but his portrayal as Ezra Miller's portrayal as Barry Allen and how they showcase his abilities and his character for me was the best. And obviously what he did at the end of the movie, which was the highlight of the movie. And I wasn't expecting that. I was like,
I
there's
was
no
not.
way they're doing this. There's
No.
no way they're doing this. And his character arc was just so, they didn't get too deep in it, but they got deep enough for you to know that there's something here for him. Like you can have a flat solo movie with this. And right before the event happened, you Barry already has knowledge of he has extensive knowledge of his abilities and he knows how they work. He knows the situations in
Mhm.
which to use them
Yeah.
because he said you have to go faster than speed of light. Even though that you said that you weren't going to do this, you have to do this now. That shows mental toughness and the fact that he was able to do it not just because I want to save my friends or like typical like tropes like that. It was literally just I have the ability to do it. I've been holding back for the sake because I didn't have to do it, but I have to do it now. He's a hero in my mind because he was just able to recognize that this happened. I'm pretty sure that event leading up to that, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Like I'm positive everyone that was caught in that blast didn't even know what happened.
Yeah. They don't even talk about it after it happened. To
They
them, it
don't
was just
even
like that.
talk about it. To
Yeah.
them, Barry got it the first time.
Right.
That right there is that right there was the MVP moment for me. But just his just like every scene that people may not like the way that Barry runs in the movie. I believe that's a nitpick, but that's just
It wasn't
that's
even
just
that
opinion.
like it wasn't that bad for whatever reason. Like the way the
It
angles
wasn't
work, you don't
bad.
notice it that much.
Honestly, and I kind of look at it as I'm like he feels like it's kind of like he's new. He felt like he's still trying to get like his body used to running, because running, like having a good running stance, that's something that's trained into your body over time. That's not really anything that people don't just wake up and just know how, like have like an efficient running stance. It's just you just run, and he's just a kid. He studies science. You saw in the movie, he was working to be like a dog walker, so I don't think that this dude is like the most athletic, so I didn't hold it against him that he was running. In fact, it felt real, and it's like you're running this fast. It kind of like he was like running on skates a little bit, where it's like he's just trying to stop, when he came out, like his shoes was but I was like, dude, this how they portray his running, especially in the car crash scene, when he saved, who, I don't know, people knew, I'm pretty sure I can say it. That was Iris, guys. When he saved Iris, I believe, I was like, that scene was just perfect. That scene was perfect. His goofy attitude. He felt like a kid, it was like he's just fast. Like when he was like, okay, I just got to heal. Like I just got the wind knocked out of me. Like it felt like if that would just be any of us. If we were in this position, it's like, I don't know what to do. So I'm just doing what I can do, to try to help. And I don't know if it's just because I was already a huge fan of the Flash beforehand, but even then, just the fact that Zack was able to portray a different like version of the Flash, but still keeping his core like the same, that for me right there, it doesn't matter how much you change a character in my eyes, as long as the core of that character remains true to what the creators intended, I believe you can create any type of iteration to have it work. So just Barry, just across the board, his abilities for me was my favorite. The way that they portrayed his abilities, the Speed Force was wonderful. Like that, that's like an eyegasm for me. Like whenever he runs, I'm like, this scene is going to go insane, because it is. And super speed, that's like a basic power, but how you portray it and how he portrayed it was just perfect. So for me, and obviously what he did, he literally saved everybody,
the world.
but the universe in a sense,
right?
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He saved the universe.
This man, and the fact that it goes under the radar is just like, it's this dude. What he did is so important. It's crazy. Like Barry Allen did good. I think the Flash did very, very good in this movie. And Zack Snyder, this is Zack freaking Snyder. This man knows what he's doing. Like he knows what he's doing. Because we could talk about throughout the entire of it. Because one of my biggest issues, and it's sort of, again, because we're like anime watchers, like we have this issue with anime shows where you have all these different characters, and you're like, well, what do you do? Well, what do you bring to the table? And in Justice League, one of the biggest issues was they established that Wonder Woman has super speed. Cool. Superman has super speed. Cool. Barry Allen has super speed. So in the Justice League, there was nothing that Barry was doing that Wonder Woman or Superman couldn't do. But then in this movie, it's established that sure, they have their own ways of keeping up speed-wise, but none of them can can create the electrical current that he can, and none of them are able to move back in time. And that's sort of it allows them to be like individual, to keep things separate. So like, so you need everyone. Everyone has to be there at that time, or you lose. Like you said, you can't save the world alone. It's like a running theme through the entire movie. And that scene, the scene of him, I watched that. That's probably my most watched scene in the entire movie. Is Barry, because I think back to, and this is Zack and his pacing, because look, Junkie XL, who's on the musical side, he started picking like this sort of music that just raises the tension. You see them Victor is trying to synchronize, Steppenwolf won't let him. Aquaman and Wonder Woman are trying to keep Steppenwolf busy long enough for long enough for Victor to synchronize with the Unity. And then Barry's just like, Victor, I can't hold this. Victor, what are you doing, Victor? And just going around and around. And look, this parademon. That parademon that's not Barry, this dude deserves a raise. This man deserves a raise, because this dude, he came in clutch, like super, super clutch. and you just see like, and he hits Barry. Barry falls down, and I love Ezra Miller's acting. He starts to shake, and like I don't know about you, but like in that moment, I usually think because Ezra, like Zach just tells Ezra, okay, so in this scene, you just got hit by a beam. There's a wound on your right lower side. Go ahead. Okay, lights, camera, action. And it's like, so Ezra is like, he's having to act it out. And it was so believable. The shaking, the trembling, the voice, like his voice was shaking. I'm like, yo, this dude knows how to act, like really, really good from Ezra Miller. And then the explosion happens and you see him running. And I'm like, what a heroic moment. First flight in Man of Steel, Wonder Woman's entrance in Batman v Superman, Flash's like iconic
They're
moments.
iconic scenes, and Wonder Woman's No Man's Land scene.
No
That's
Man's
up
Land. Oh,
there.
like DC, like DC is creating, and all of these scenes are like in Zack Snyder's his universe, like all these iconic scenes. Like DC, they had it. They just like it just slipped out. Look, Barry was great. Barry was absolutely great.
And those iconic scenes is something that Marvel movie, not to compare the two, but just from like because they're two different. The Russo brothers and they're two different directors. They
Right.
cannot compare them. They're both excellent at their job. Do not get me wrong. They are both excellent at what they do. But the Russo brothers, what they kind of lack, Zack Snyder, for me, just as a movie watcher, I love iconic scenes, and Zack Snyder is able to create these iconic scenes that the Russo brothers, they just don't either have a knack for, or the movie just doesn't call for it. But Zack Snyder does a really, really, really good job at creating these iconic scenes that, for me, always kind of it keeps DC in the conversation of, oh, well, whose movies are better. Even though it's subjective, I always give the nod to DC just because they have iconic scenes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think back to like the MCU, Cap wielding Thor's hammer on Mjolnir, that's a shout. The Anya, like the portal scene, that's a shout. Thor's arrival in Wakanda, that's a shout. Well, I mean,
those are good scenes, but I believe I'm not taking away, but
yeah,
that's like the ultimate culmination of like 10, 12 years of build up. Like, and that's good. That's awesome, like character building. But like just being able to create a character and to create a scene where it's just them. It's just them.
Right.
Like,
I have to agree
that's
with
a
that.
talent.
Right. Because first flight is literally just Superman, No Man's Land and Wonder Woman is just Wonder Woman. And she, like, again, I do understand your point. It's not like a combination of many movies. Wonder Woman is doing one thing, and it's just shot in a way that one thing is iconic. As opposed to Cap lifting Mjolnir is like a combination from Age of Ultron all the way up here. So, so yeah, I have to agree. So, let's move on to someone who many people believe is the MVP of the movie, Mr. Ray Fisher's Victor Stone's Cyborg. Go for it.
Oh man! First things first, I do got to give props to. I don't know if Zack Snyder did this on purpose, but when they called him Dr. Stone, I just couldn't help but think of Senku. I'm like, Senku, but we go.
I don't know that Zack knows that, but that's true. I didn't notice that.
That was funny because just jokes aside, Victor was the second main character in my eyes. If I had to pick a main character for Justice League, even though it was up to Justice League, you still kind of do need to have a main protagonist. You would obviously go Batman number one, because this is the whole reason all this is happening is because he decided to fight Superman. This is the only reason this is happening. But just from a character getting introduced in the movie, Victor got the most character development by far. His arc, like, this is his story from beginning up until the end, was perfect. Another iconic scene that probably will go under the radar is when his father was explaining to him his abilities and him kind of becoming Cyborg, like becoming that person. Even though I don't think they ever addressed him as Cyborg. They always addressed him as Victor because he is still himself.
That's a very cool touch.
He just has all these other abilities. They always called him Victor, like you mentioned with Ezra when he was saying, "No, Victor, I can't hold it." Victor, with they never called him like Cyborg. I can't do this. Cyborg is literally just Victor.
Hmm.
And because that's just his arc, because his arc was, and it fits because his arc is basically, you aren't a monster, even though you look this way. It's unfortunate, but you still can have a life. That's what his father said. He said you can still have a life. You
Right.
just have to figure out how to use these abilities to do what you want to do. And he didn't have to change who he was, because that scene when he was helping out that woman
Yeah.
who was down on her luck, that scene almost brought tears to my eye. I'm like, because when it was first going on, I wasn't following it, but it's like as it kept, I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
okay, and then
Hmm.
he just, I'm like, wow, like this dude Victor really is. This dude has every reason in the world to not help anybody.
Right.
He could have sat in his house and just said, "Woe is me," all movie. And if I'm being honest, he would have been completely justified. You just lost your mother, your father. Like, you have every reason to not help people, and he goes out of his way to not only help like a small, I guess you could say, a small insignificant woman who just is down on money, to taking the initiative. No one said he had to do this. No one knew that he could do this, but he said, "I'm going to be the one to sing with the unity, and I'm going to be the one to pull it apart. This
Yeah.
is just what I'm going to do," and that's like a main character type thing to do. That you put Goku, you replace Vegeta and you put Goku. That's consistent. It's like, okay, Goku would do something like that. You put Naruto, yes, he would do something like that. Like, that's main character type. That's a main character type move. And just, it's just, he gets a 12 out of 10 for me. Ray Fisher gets a 12 out of 10 for me. His portrayal as Cyborg is perfect. They even reference his Cyborg signature blast in the cartoon. It was
Yeah.
like it was like in a shot for like 1 or 2 seconds. But I'm like, Zack Snyder, dude, you know what you're doing. That's one
He
thing I
knows
love
what he's
about Zack
doing.
Snyder. He loves DC. He knows what he's doing. Like, dude, he is so good at his job. It's unfair.
It's unfair, bro.
It's
It really
unfair.
is.
And you give the person who you really have no reason to give all this development to the most development,
Right.
and you only have him for what, 2 3 hours at that time. You
Yeah.
basically have 2 hours to work with this. You have to introduce his backstory. You have to have him deal with the grief of what happened. You have to have him become cyborg, and then you have to have him like just the actions after that. It's just everything was just executed perfectly. Everything was executed perfectly. The even scenes where there was no talking, just the scene of him watching the kids playing football outside, and then them shifting to him playing for Gotham City. It's like, dang. Even if they don't go past that, it's like, dang, this dude really lost almost everything. His mother, like, it's 12 out of 10 for Ray Fisher and
Yeah.
Cyborg. I really don't feel like I have to say anything else outside of that. He was the one who basically say, outside of the Flash, but that goes into the tone. You can't do it alone. You can't
Yep.
do it alone. Even though no one else could really go into the unity and keep it apart, he wouldn't. We saw what happened
We
when
saw. Yeah.
we saw what happened. Everything ended. If Superman doesn't show up, he dies. If Wonder Woman and Aquaman don't hold him off, then he, like, even though he's taking on the most dangerous thing, it doesn't matter, because he wouldn't have been able to do it on his own. And the way that all these character arcs, they go from being alone, like, since they go from being alone to working together,
Yeah.
like, and doing it flawlessly. Like, it's the most beautiful, like, collection of characters. It's like people who have all the reason in the world to not want to work with people are really the people like, you have to work together. And Cyborg for me was the pinnacle of that in this movie, because he went through the most in this movie. And
I
almost
have
like
to
he
agree.
lost both his parents, like Batman. Like, he lost both his parents just like Batman, but he also physically lost his body too, and he gained all of this power. And when his father said, when Dr. Stone said, it's not what you choose to do with this power, it's like, what aren't you going to do? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's a different take on people getting powers, because obviously origins, how people get powers. It's like, what can you do with this power to help people? With him, it's different, and that's what makes him different. That's probably what made it stand out for me, because it's like, it's not what you can do, it's what like, you have all this power, is what you choose not to do, because he could literally have the entire world bowing at his feet, and there would be nothing. There really wouldn't be too many people that could stop him from doing that. Superman could stop him. Wonder Woman probably. The Flash couldn't. Batman couldn't.
Mhm.
Like, it's a very short list of people who could stop him, and he chooses to help people and sacrifice himself and to face his demons, which was another thing Zack did beautifully at the pinnacle of the movie. When it's about Steppenwolf and stopping, saving the world, he finds time to have Victor overcome the insecurity in his mind, which was because it was with his parents, and they were asking, if you stay here, you won't be broken anymore. You know, you won't
Yeah.
have to worry about that body. If he didn't go through that character development, he probably would have failed there, right then and there. He probably would have chose to stay there. But it's like it ties into it's like self-worth. It's like you have to know who you are as a person. You can't help people unless you help yourself first.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
none of them would have been at the level that they were at unless they decided to help themselves.
Right.
They have to learn to help themselves first, overcome whatever that they were going through before they could even choose to try to save the world with these powers. And that's at the forefront of Zack Snyder's movie. It's mind first, ability second.
I
A
agree.
hero, you aren't a hero because you have abilities. You're a hero because of your mindset. And that was done beautifully by Zack Snyder. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ironic that Cyborg only has like Ray Fisher only had 3/4 of his face to go off of, and he still felt the most human out of all of them. It's
Like,
crazy. Like there's only 3/4 of his face that's actually human, and he was still able to
props.
deliver a
I got
performance.
it. This is probably like a little side props, but I have to give props to everyone on the CGI team that worked on
Yeah.
this movie. Because
Yeah.
my goodness, like he did, like, it felt like it looked real.
Yeah.
He looked real. Like, I'm like, he looked real, because they could have went like with Joss Whedon's freaking Superman. You know how that looked. That was
Mhm.
his Superman, his much. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
They put in the extra effort and the time, and they brought Zach's visions to life, and they did it beautifully. So props to
Yeah.
every member of the team that went into, like, visually, that did
I
this movie,
agree.
because this was
I agree.
excellent.
They only had 7 months to do it too. It's not like they had like a year. Like Zach said, he wanted a year. Warner Brothers said, "Yo, if you want this, you got to get to us by March." And so like they had to go in. It was like, guys, pull it together. We got 7 months, 4 hours in 7 months. That's ridiculous. That is
Like,
ridiculous.
the
I
work
swear.
ethic ridiculous. I had, like, Zack Snyder gets my respect, not just because he directed one of my favorite movies,
Right.
but just his work ethic into going back and to getting this movie ready to go for the release on HBO Max. Like, just, it's ridiculous. Like, that's a legendary work ethic, and you have to love your job. You have to love
Right.
what you're doing, and you
I
have to have a
agree.
passion for it in order to do that. And
Yeah.
everyone did a phenomenal job.
I agree, and that's sort of why, like, when people wonder how, like as far as like the director's job on set and everything, and there's a reason why, like Joss Whedon may have like issues with so many people because, as the director, it's not even about what you're saying with the scene. Is you are at the top of it's like you're in charge of all the departments, of making them to be on schedule, what they're supposed to do, who's supposed to do it, when they get to you by. Like it's probably little bit of like the actual direction has little to do with the scene and more to do with like making sure that the entire like community of people working on the movie are doing things right. And that's probably why you can have like the best creative mind, but if you're not a people person who knows how to manage individuals, you won't be a good director because no one's going to want to work with you. And Zack
Right.
Snyder, for
You
whatever
you
reason,
hit that.
the people he work with, they genuinely, like, you'll see all the interviews, they genuinely love to work with him. And like, I think I read many articles where like Weta Studios did one of the VFX studios, and like he goes in there like, we got 7 months. And luckily for us, it was quarantine and people would needed work anyway, and a lot of them were happy that they could go back and restore because they worked on it for years. Warner Brothers comes in, it's like, oh, scrap all of that, we're going to go with this. So a lot of them were genuinely excited to go back, so it was like a labor of love. You could tell they put in some serious work. I'll say like there are certain scenes that look less realistic than others, but to me, like they had 7 months. You're not supposed to be able to do this much work in 7 months. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like
And
I mean,
even then, like this,
if,
I mean to cut you off, but like I
right.
just want to like iterate. Like every scene with Steppenwolf was perfect. Every scene with Steppenwolf, every scene that Steppenwolf was in was perfect. I'm gonna let you continue, but that was just like seven
Right. I
months.
mean,
That's
like
ridiculous.
I was just thinking about it because, like, even like you know how the whole issue with Attack on Titan, Mappa Studios, and they had a little less than a year, and this is like an. I'm sorry, there are levels to this. This is an anime show, CGI drawing, and like with some of these CG, because with some of these VFX studios, they have to like animate the entire thing from scratch. You know, like because
Yes.
some of the battles are fully CGI, and they have to do everything, every frame, 4 hours, 7 months. My, like, I was so baffled at how they did this. This is
Like
ridiculous.
imagine the work for the Flash
Oh,
scene at the end. Like that scene was just like
oh
I'm
my
like,
god,
bro, there's like in the
so
way that
much.
they portrayed it, I'm like, dude, like all of these guys that were every single person that worked on this movie absolutely deserves a whatever they got paid was not enough. Whatever they got from top to bottom, I don't care from Zack Snyder all the way down to the boy who handed out the bagels. I don't care.
Right.
They all deserve a pay raise.
Yeah.
Whatever they got paid, I know it wasn't enough because everything was
Wow.
flawless.
Yeah, yeah, and you can see it's like this movie was a success. They're all getting their credit, and I really like after like the more I learn about the industry, the more respect I have for Zack Snyder, and
Mhm.
because you travel with your crew because like his stuntman, his cinematographers, like that's who. So you just travel with them from movie to movie, and he's you select who is going to be on your crew. So he had the wherewithal to select some of these guys who are genuinely talented and then put them all into this team who are like they band together, they did this, it looks great, and I'm excited to see where they go because I'm pretty sure some of them worked on Army of the Dead, which is going to come out like 2021 belongs to Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's
Honestly,
not
like
2021. 2021 is for
this
Zack.
dude, man, this dude, Zack Snyder, man. I, I'm gonna be upset when he's like I'm done. I'm gonna be upset when he hangs it up for good
Right,
because
right.
that's like when Hans Zimmer left DC, that hurt.
Mhm.
That hurt me.
Right. I thought
That
it would be
hurts.
I thought it would have been over.
I thought it would have been. I thought it was over. I seriously, when Hans Zimmer was like, "I'm done with this," like I'm done. I was like,
Yeah.
"There's no way. Like the music is gonna be. There's no
Right. Where are
because
we going to get
that
our music from?
where are we gonna get our music?" And Hans Zimmer was just like, but
But
the
then
music was really good in this movie as well.
yeah, yeah. And then Junkie, because Junkie XL is like he'll tell you he was like Hans Zimmer's protege, like his
Yeah,
apprentice for many years. So it's like he left, like he knew that he was leaving it in good hands. And like my goodness, Junkie XL, like he knocked it out of the park. Amazing score
like
in this one.
when Superman showed up, the music that was playing
Oh
because I
my,
was like, "That's Hans Zimmer,"
that's
but
Hans Zimmer.
Junkie XL got his hands on that too. He was like, "Okay, this is
I'm gonna
good,
use that.
but let me modernize it a little bit,
Right.
dude."
Great, great. But
The
yeah,
music
yeah.
was probably the weakest part of the movie, but that doesn't mean that it was bad. It was just
Yeah,
everything
I
else was
agree.
just so phenomenal.
I agree. So we totally got off track, but it's fine. But so basically, the cyborg, I'm basically all the stuff you're saying. That's just it. Like Ray Fisher's acting superb. His character arc was amazing. The fact that whenever like there was one thing, whenever they would visualize Victor inside his technological mind, you know how like Zack Snyder would do this visualization of what it looks like in the digital world. It would always portray Victor as human. It wasn't until the
Yeah,
last moment, like the final moment, where he actually portrays himself as Cyborg, to showcase him accepting that this is who I am now. And he's like, he comes to grips with it. Because up until that point, every time he's in his digital mind, he's in his human form. It wasn't until the
mhm.
end where they show you his human, his cyborg, and he remains the cyborg, parts the mother boxes, calls Superman, he pull it apart. Like really, really good teamwork in that. Like Victor gets like you said, 12 out of 10. Amazing
It
stuff.
was
And it's like
amazing.
it's so crazy. Like the DC executives had this footage. They saw it and they said, "Now we good. We good." I'm like,
Like
bro.
I wish that there was a way that I could have live reacted to the movie while I was watching it because I swear, like I said this about 30 times, no lie. How did they cut this out? how could you cut this out? There's no way they cut that out. Like that was probably the only thing I was saying the whole movie. How could they cut this out? The Flash scene when he saved Iris. How could they cut that out? How could you sit down, watch this movie, and go, we don't need that? The Victor scene, we don't need that. Flash, we don't need that. Superman with the black suit, nope, we don't need that. Like at some point, you have to. At some point, I kind of want to stop like criticizing the original Justice League movie. Like Justice League, they don't know what they didn't know what they were doing. They was just like, people can't watch stuff for 4 hours. Let's cut it down to 2, and let's just put all the action, let's put all the funny stuff in it, and just it'll be fine. No, that's not what you do. That's not what you do. Something like DC, the history behind it. There are radical fans of DC, and it showed because for years, we would release the Snyder cut. It was to the point to where it's like it's toxic. It's like really, but that's just how rabid DC fans were. Us as fans, we just like this isn't the movie that we wanted to see. And this wasn't the movie that we wanted to see. And I can't forgive the producers at Warner Brothers for holding this back from DC fans. I cannot. I can't. There's like, I have to apologize for everybody up at DC. I'm like, this movie sucks, and y'all did a horrible job because I didn't know that they cut half of his movie until years later when it's like, this isn't even his whole movie. I'm like, huh? I'm like, well, why? No one could give me a legit reason as to why. I can only assume why they did it, but the important thing is that we got it, and it's here for us to watch until the end of time, honestly, and I'm happy.
Right, but trust me, I'm sure, because I don't know if you saw it just a few days ago, or actually this morning, Zack Snyder's Justice League is now the most tweeted about movie of all time. Beating Avengers. So
love to hear that.
So basically, as far as because that's one of the things, because you heard how Ann Sarnoff, the Warner Media or something came out and said, "Oh yeah, that's it. There's no David Ayer's Suicide Squad. There's no Zack. Like this was the end of Zack Snyder." And the fans heard about it, were like, "I bet." And so they organized this thing where they trended for in less than 24 hours. They beat Avengers Endgame tally tweets, which is like in the millions. Well, like 1 point something million. We surpassed that. And basically, like Zack is always on Vero. So he posted on Vero. I wish I had it. I would have posted it. He posted on Vero that, you guys are amazing. Wow, this is help. Like, because we know, because, I don't know if you remember 2008, November 17th, like I think 2 years ago, there was this huge release the Snyder Cut thing. And apparently a day later, that's when they called Zack and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And that was like in the high 100,000s. This is a million, and now it's not even just Zack Snyder fans. Now everybody who's seen it, the people who didn't care for Zack are now on board. We know, like I know for a fact, Zack is going to go to a meeting. He's going to pull up these analytics and say, "If you want money, you let me do what I want. You give me my clean check, my blank check, and I will make you some money." Because I don't know if you saw, Zack Snyder's Justice League broke the streaming records in Canada. We don't know all the facts yet, but it's doing numbers. This show is doing numbers, and I can't.
This is an all-time movie. This is an all-time movie. This is an all-timer. Like just like you said, like you have a good director when it's just like, just blank check out whatever you write. We will make that back plus more. Just let me do my job.
Right. That's my job. My job is to make you money through my movies. Let me do it. But let's get to the last two characters we have to talk about, the villains. Well, 3, but I don't have his picture. But first, we got Mr. Steppenwolf. Poor guy. What was your opinion on this dude? Poor guy.
Mr. It's toxic. It's good. That was a perfect parallel to the world as is. I'm like, dude, Steppenwolf. Like, Steppenwolf as a Steppenwolf. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that these guys cut his development, his character, like his motivation for doing what he was doing. I felt bad for him after obviously, like I didn't feel bad when he was like killing the Amazons. I wanted him to lose, obviously, but it's just you take this big monster, and it's kind of I don't know if it's a parallel to Aquaman, but I kind of do draw comparisons. This big dude, this big kill, like this big guy that's going around destroying worlds, but he's not doing it really because he enjoys it. He's kind
Right.
of doing it because he has to,
Yeah.
and it's kind of akin to, I guess, Attack on Titan in the sense where it's like it's that's I don't know if that was really his base motivation to begin with, because it feels like he just wants to be with Darkseid. He just wants to serve under he just wants to be with Darkseid. He just says, "I want to come home."
Hmm.
That was him at his most vulnerable. Like, I just want to come. When can I come home? Like, I just want to be with Darkseid. And him just as a villain, I call him an antagonist because he
Right.
wasn't a villain.
He wasn't a
He kind
villain.
of just he did bad things, but his goal wasn't bad in a sense. It was just he just wanted to come home. I love Steppenwolf
Yeah.
as an
Darkseid's the
antagonist.
villain, but Steppenwolf is
Darkseid,
the
yeah,
antagonist.
Darkseid is the guy that we really need to be worried about.
Holy
But
shit, dude.
but Steppenwolf just as a character, I enjoyed it whenever Steppenwolf was on screen, regardless of whether he was just talking or whether he was fighting. Just I say this a lot, but just the presence that he commands just by being there, be it the lines that he says, because he says some very good lines. No protectors, no
Hmm.
Kryptonians, no
Yep.
lanterns here. It was just, it's like when he showed up, it's like it felt like it was the end. It really
Yep.
felt like it's over. And this ties to another line that was one of my favorite lines, but he was like, "I'm going to bathe in your fear," which is on its own a
Hmm.
tough
Hmm.
line. But when the Amazons responded, "Show me your fear," we have no fear. I was like,
All
okay.
right.
I
Let's
was like,
go.
I was like, this is how you start off a movie. This is how you introduce your antagonist or your villain. You let them know, you let the audience know this dude is a force to be reckoned with. And he
And no
showed that with
agendas.
his powers. You
No agendas.
know what,
No
like
agendas.
no
The
agenda,
women were
no
tough.
agendas. He was
Yeah.
just like he was like 100,000 worlds fell before you. You're just another world. And he just didn't care. He was just like, I'm here to do my job, and you're in my way, so you have to go. And it was every time he's in, he's like, it's as simple as that. I have a job to do. You're in my way. What can I do to make sure that my job is to make sure I do my job correctly?
Right.
That's really Steppenwolf's character. Now, when you just look at that as a statement, it's pretty like it's not bad in a sense. You can attribute that to Batman. You could say like, is Batman a bad guy because
Hmm.
of that reason? No, it's just how you go about doing it. But
Yeah.
they didn't get too deep into like more of his character, because I did remember Desaad said that he betrayed them or something. They
Hmm.
didn't get too deep into that, but I
Right.
guess he betrayed Darkseid or whatever. And Steppenwolf in this as a character, this let me know how mature of a character he was. He didn't try to defend whatever he did. He accepted it and he said this was a mistake, but I'm ready. It just showed like his desperation.
Yeah.
He didn't feel like a bad guy. He just felt like a kid who was just thrust into having to do this because he had to. It's not because
Yeah.
he didn't. I don't think because he wanted to. It's just he just had to. And even this picture right here, that speaks volumes, because it's you typically always see him with his armor on, the glowing eyes, all that. But this, he's vulnerable. He, in a sense, is vulnerable. You can relate to him in a way of doing things to get the approval of other people. And it's a
Right.
shame that he didn't really get the chance to redeem himself. I'm not saying Steppenwolf was worthy of redemption, but that's just not how the plot. That's just not what the plot called for. But he was perfect. He was the perfect antagonist for the Justice League, because how they worked together, it was a perfect concept because he was doing everything on his own. No one was
He
to help him.
was.
He just had parademons or lifeless, or they said beings without life. It was just lifeless husk. He didn't have
Hmm.
anyone to really talk to. Like when he wanted to talk to Desaad, he was always throwing them off. He couldn't talk to the person he wanted to talk
People be
to.
hating on Desaad too. Like they hate,
Desaad
and
is
I hate him too. This dude's. I hate this. Such a
because I'm
prick.
like when Desaad shows up, I'm like, okay, this is one of his black things. But Desaad was just a bit of a D to Steppenwolf.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I get he's bad, but I mean, like, he just found the anti-life equation. He's
Clear.
doing this. He's found the like he's doing like he's like, and he's like, you owe him 50,000 more worlds, and you could just see after he said that Steppenwolf's
Ah.
eyes were just like, I'm like, I'm like,
50,000 is
I
a
was
lot.
I'm like, he did 100,000. I'm like, I'm not saying that those people deserve to die, but I'm just like, just taking that for what it is. You really don't think that he deserves to come home? And for me, when you can relate to a villain in a sense, or like just their motivations are kind of understandable, that for me makes a great antagonist or a great villain.
Right.
Steppenwolf isn't a villain, but he's a great antagonist. And for me, Steppenwolf, without Steppenwolf and his motivation for doing what he did, and just the contrast between him and the Justice League, I don't think that this movie really would have been as good as it was, because, like they
Right.
say, your story is only as good as
Good as your
your
villain.
antagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was really good. I enjoy Steppenwolf. I don't know the actor. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was. I don't know if they kind of pulled a Thanos where they got someone
They
to.
did. His name
They
was
didn't
Siren Hinds. I don't know if you know
say
him.
one time.
His name was like Siren Hinds. Like he was in Game of Thrones, like the king of the free people in Game of Thrones.
Okay,
That guy. I
okay.
don't know if you
Whatever.
remember.
Siren Hens. He did the excellent job. Like the voice that he had. It was
Yeah.
just. It was just what he was, what Steppenwolf was, and what he was trying to do. He played his role perfectly, and he
Yeah.
enhanced it a little bit. And it goes a long way when people kind of feel bad for the person who murdered an entire race of Amazons.
Full
Like,
campaigns. You know that funny image of it's like a cat crying. I've seen people like put that on Steppenwolf's face. Like it just shows you like Zack Snyder succeeded in making a sympathetic villain where we feel sorry for him. And like with the picture I have on screen right now, you notice like the battle scars on him. You can tell that, I don't know the context to it, but you could almost like theorize that all the worlds that he's having to kill is taking a toll on him, and his body is
yeah,
beginning to break down, and he's like, he might not make it to 50, like he might not make 50,000 more. Like this man is battered, broken, beaten, wants to go home, and his prick Desaad, who's like this dude, like I mean, I'm just making my prediction. His character feels like that one guy who's just like he wants to stand between you and the king so he can like alter the reports to suit his own agenda. I would not be surprised if Desaad was trying to backstab Darkseid in the end or something. He feels like that
I
kind of
will hope he's
character.
not. I will hope that he's not that dumb to backstab Darkseid. I
Yeah.
will hope so.
Because I was very surprised. At the end of the movie, he was like, I told you Steppenwolf would fail. I was like, bro, you're talking to Darkseid. You want to, like, you're rubbing it in his face to Darkseid? Like, it's like, yo, chill, bro. But,
I believe
well,
Desaad kind of. I believe that Steppenwolf. I believe this is just headcanon, but I believe
mhm,
Steppenwolf and Darkseid were a lot closer and like in their
yeah,
past than Desaad is to Darkseid. So it's
yeah,
like
I agree.
he kind of wants to keep Steppenwolf away, because
Away.
just
Yeah,
like Steppenwolf just feels like, just whenever he just speaks about Darkseid with just such reverence. He's so loyal to him, and it's just like you can see, like in that scene, he took off his armor, he exposed himself to,
right,
like, after he told him that he found the anti-life equation, that loyalty, and that's consistent with basically what Darkseid represents, which is absolute order.
right.
He Steppenwolf, just without the anti-life equation, without being the anti-life equation. I believe Steppenwolf might be afraid of him, but I don't believe that's the only reason as to
Right.
why
It's the
he's
respect and the
loyal to him.
reverence.
I
Yeah.
believe, yeah, it's like a respect sort of thing. It's just Darkseid is the one that I want to follow, and I respect the stuff that he says, and I'm going to do anything for him. That's just a leader. That's just what a good leader does.
Right.
And you can
And it's
say
funny
that
because
about
it's his
good
nephew.
and bad. Oh, that's his nephew.
Right. Darkseid is Steppenwolf's nephew. I mean, in
Like,
the comics, he is. I don't know what Zack is
okay.
gonna go. And sort of like I think that because like I think Ava DuVernay or whatever is supposed to do the New Gods movie. I guess like by this time when they were crafting the story, I feel like Zack wanted to leave a lot of their story for Ava like to tell. Because I think the New God story has to do with Darkseid and like these characters, because these are the new gods. And so I feel like maybe just Zack just wanted to leave it to them so they could explore it in more detail. Because he likes doing that, because he doesn't want to take your story away from you. So he'll hint at it and he'll leave it for you to do it on your own. And so I do know that Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. So I don't know how the story is going to go, but it may just be that, from a young, maybe he saw how powerful Darkseid would be, and like, where it's his life mission to like look after his nephew till his nephew is strong enough to take the throne. And I heard like this is just me what I heard. I heard that in the comics, I'm not sure, Darkseid's brother tried to kill him, but then Steppenwolf killed Darkseid's brother, and so like Darkseid's mad at Steppenwolf for killing his brother, even though Steppenwolf did it to protect Darkseid. So like it's a very complex relationship. I'll tell you that much. And so I don't know when this New Gods movie is going to arrive. Like DC was supposed to have a New Gods movie already, and they're about to let Marvel's Eternals win. I don't know why they're wasting time. Like we were supposed to get a New Gods movie a while ago, and now the what's it called? Marvel's what's it called? Shoot, what's the name of the Marvel? The Eternals. Like Marvel's going to use the Eternals,
yep.
like I guess the New Gods version. DC needs to get their they need to get together.
DC needs to get a move. They need to get a move on. They need to get a move on because
the same thing with Flashpoint. They announced multiverse, but then like with WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they're gonna beat you to it again. I'm like, can you guys just get a move on? What is going on? It's crazy.
I believe that they're gonna take their time, but you don't want to get me started on WandaVision. I got a video cooked up for that, but you don't want to get into that. But
go ahead.
But I believe, and this is just my thoughts. Working off what you said about Steppenwolf killing Darkseid's brother to protect him, I believe that grief to kind of like surf under him. It's kind of like him trying to pay his pen, pay for like what he did in a sense, kind of in the same way that Bruce is trying to make up for being like, I guess, the reason why Superman ended up losing his life. I don't know if that was what Zack Snyder and the writers intended, but I believe if that's the case, that was beautiful, like parallels to each other. It just shows you like the extreme like levels of good and maybe like the extreme levels of evil that people will go to for this grief that they feel. The lengths that they will go to, like Batman literally breaking out of like this shell to go out and look for other people to work with, like this reference to like faith. We just have to have faith to do it. We just have to, like, that's nothing like Batman, but that shows a change in him. Maybe Steppenwolf doing this, like you said, he looks tired. He feels like life is just beating him like to the ground. Like that mental fatigue will weigh you down a lot worse than the physical fatigue, and just it's a lot. It's a lot. Steppenwolf needs a therapist, but he's dead now. So
all right then. The last person we have to visit is the God himself, the God of Apocalypse, Mr. Darkseid. What are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's iteration of Darkseid?
Ooh, okay. So Darkseid, I believe, was out of the major characters, he was one of the least shown, which was really well done. I'm glad that they didn't show too much of Darkseid. You kind of have to keep this, like, you know who he is, but whenever he shows up, you know it's game over. Literally, they showed what happened when Darkseid, he didn't even show up. He just a portal opened, and that's it. It's over. It can be over just like that. But like,
it's just like Madara status. The moment he's on the field, it's game over.
It's game over. And the only time when he actually lost in the movie was when literally the gods, the lanterns, the humans, the Atlantic, they all had to come together to stop him. Now, even though, and one thing I really didn't like that they showed was that how easily, quote unquote, it looked like they took him down.
Right.
You know, that was probably one of my least favorite things about the movie, but it also showcased the importance of working together. That right there, working together. You see, that's always a tone in the movie. Everything that's accomplished, it ends up working. So I'm not too mad at it, but
and he was young by then. This wasn't like Omega Effect Darkseid. This was Euxis as a baby.
Yes, this is like Darkseid who just trying to get his feet wet. He just want to fight, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna just show up to Earth, and I'm gonna just take all these people on. And like they said, that was the first time that they had set Darkseid running, so that probably humbled him a lot. It showed him that you're not this all powerful, you know, even though you're a new god, you're not there yet. Like God's supposed to be absolute. You're not at the point to where you can just say the universe is mine. You still have some growing to do. And
Right.
and this, I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, but just the fact that Darkseid kind of took a step back and was like, okay, I'm not gonna go running around. I'm gonna just focus on other things. I
Yeah.
can't do Earth right now, but I'm gonna just focus on other things. I'm gonna get stronger. I'm gonna learn more about the multiverse. I'm gonna learn more about my abilities, and I'm gonna learn how to basically just take over the universe.
Right.
And it was kind of like a silent storytelling. That's kind of how I took it. It was just silent storytelling. It's like you show him the first time he's actually shown doing something, he loses. But they
Yeah.
build him up as this
Hmm.
great, powerful God. But you have to remember, this is 1,000 years in the past. This is thousands of years ago. We're not talking about the same dark side. This dark side is
Hmm.
different. And I'm positive, if Darkseid actually showed up in this movie, it would be over. It would be over. I don't I
I've
don't
read some
think that.
storyboards. I wonder what Zach's gonna do because because I mean I wonder what your knowledge of comics would say because like for one thing, the fact that it took Zeus, Ares, Artemis to to take down baby Darkseid is like that says a lot in itself. Also, another thing that was interesting was the mother boxes were almost synchronized. Zeus, like it took one shot from Zeus to part the boxes. For us, it took Cyborg going into it with a combination of him and Superman to do something that Zeus did in one blow. To just show you these old gods were legit. They were legit. But also, the fact that his loss actually made him sort of change his perspective where instead of conquering worlds he's now in pursuit of the anti-life equation. He's trying to be
Yeah.
smarter about it, to be more efficient about it. But like there are these storyboards that Zach put out of his entire like a detail, like there are illustrations by Jim Lee of all like a comic thing where it's these whiteboards and there's just like 20 of them or something detailing the entire story, the entire saga. And I don't know if this is comic accurate, but according to the storyboard, which Zach has said he's not doing that, like he's changed the story, so it's not the same anymore. Technically, Superman was gonna kick Darkseid's ass. Like Darkseid was going to. It's like Darkseid was going to like he finds out that Lois is the key, and so like he boom tubes to the Batcave. He kills Lois, and then Superman in like enraged, bloodlusted Superman kills Darkseid, and so to me, I just have to wonder whether like does that change your opinion that technically he loses to an enraged Superman? Like, are you going to be fine with that? A bloodlusted
If
Superman
he
killing Darkseid.
I I wouldn't be too upset. I wouldn't be too upset if he loses to a bloodlusted Superman, but I would have to also you also have to make me believe that
He's a
Darkseid doing this,
yeah.
knowing the consequences. I do not believe that Darkseid wouldn't think of, okay, if I kill this, how powerful I am in level to this Kryptonian. I believe he would have thought it through, but he just didn't account for Superman just losing his mind and just him losing at that point. For me,
Yeah.
it would have to be a build up, and you would have to showcase how powerful Darkseid is. But him doing that, that definitely wouldn't be. I definitely wouldn't be upset at that. But Superman has been shown to be able to go toe to toe with Darkseid
What
on
a
a
team.
consistent level, and raised or not, he's able to do it, and that in and of itself really tells you how powerful Superman truly is. Like, but your dark
Man,
side,
Superman's a problem, bro. Jeez.
regardless. And one thing that I took notice on, one thing I took notice on in this movie, from whenever they showed Darkseid, the earlier version of Darkseid, like he has a spear, he's ready for battle and all of that. And he's in, like, he went to Atlantis. You saw the Omega beams when he was doing that in
Yeah.
Atlantis. He's going back and forth and he's like doing this like physically, but as he's learning, he's kind of taking the seat back a little bit and he's thinking. He's not really interfering too much. He's just letting his people do what they do, and he's like looking for the anti-life equation. But he knows when Steppenwolf is like, I found it, then he's ready to make a move. He's like, this is what I was looking for. This is what I was waiting
He
for.
came to the phone
That's
real quick.
ready. He was like, oh, anti-life? Yeah, let's take this call real quick. Like, literally. And I'm like, that's the mark. I know people are like, yo, you're giving Darkseid props. Yes, because you have to be a good leader on some level in order
Right.
to have this amount of influence on the people minus the intellect equation. Because in the animated series, and this was a scene that really stuck with me even long after I first saw it, Superman was beating the crap out of Darkseid. And after he beat Darkseid, Superman was like, "You guys are free. Like, I defeated Darkseid. You can go." Darkseid and like all the people, they go and they help Darkseid. And Darkseid's like, he's like, on Earth, maybe you're a god, but here on Apocalypse, I'm the one that's in charge. And they help him, and they help him.
Out
And
of
I'm
their
like,
free will.
out of their free will. And he's like looking, he's like, I even me, like as a kid, I'm like, what? Like that's it's like you would think like the climax of that show would or that episode would be Superman fighting Darkseid, taking him down. But it's actually what happens afterwards. It's the fact that Darkseid, from our perspective, may look evil, but is he actually evil? Because a lot of people may attribute Darkseid to like death, destruction, chaos, all of that. But when in actuality, he doesn't represent any of that. It's actually the opposite. It's actually like order. It's supreme order. It's supreme like just obedience. Follow me. Now we don't know what Darkseid wants to do. We know he wants to enslave all of humanity and the universe, obviously, but is that necessarily a bad thing? Now that's up to. I know that question sounds weird, and I know like your first initial reaction is to say no. I want free will. Obviously,
Right.
that would be. I was assuming if you have any sense of normalcy in your mind that you will want free will. But I'm gonna get a little bit deep here for a second. But let's look at what we accomplish with our free will. We accomplish great things, just humans, just in general. But for just as much good, there's equal, if not more, bad that we've done to our
Fair.
world. So I'm not saying that that is the be all end all way to do things to enslave all of the universe and just have everyone fall after each other. But I believe Darkseid kind of represents another side of the coin, another side of the same coin that we're both on, order and chaos. Because if you really want to think about it, if everyone has free will, there is no order. It's nothing but chaos. And what does chaos mean about destruction? Like
Right. I agree.
it goes to ask, are we the bad guys? I don't know. Are
Okay
we the
then.
bad guys?
All right then.
Oh
Well,
man.
that okay. So that so sort of closing. So just closing thoughts on the entire movie because we basically covered every character. I think we've, even if to different degrees, we've spoken about every plot point of significance. So overall, give your closing thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh man. Zack Snyder's Justice League just as a whole from beginning to end was everything that the DC universe needed, that DC fans were looking for, that it was just perfect in every way. It gave everyone a chance to shine in their own way. It was just, in my eyes, a masterpiece from start to end. And I hope that in the future that it just for the sake of movies, just in general, that we don't completely just write off the new, like something that we're not used to, that we sit back and we kind of try to embrace the new for what it is and the different tone that Zack Snyder is going for. And just a little personal thing, Zack Snyder's writing and it's inspired my own in the sense of like the dark tones, kind of going into like the darker aspects of people just in general. And just every movie that he touches in the DC universe is just, it makes you think about life and it makes you look at everything a little bit differently while being entertaining. And it's entertaining on every level, regardless of whether you look at it on a deep philosophical level, like we just got into, or just as a superhero movie where you just watch it for the action. Like on every level, he checks every box. And that's why it's a perfect masterpiece to me. Zack Snyder did a very good job. And if he ever hears this, or anyone who works at DC ever runs across this video, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for the effort and time that you put into this movie. It was genuinely a very, very good masterpiece of a movie. And there's nothing else I really can say other than awesome job.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree with this. I there was this thing that popped up yesterday. Zack Snyder is now the most popular movie celebrity of all time. He shot up to like he went like 528 spots. Just went from like way down there. He's sitting at number one. Clearly, Netflix knows that this dude, not only does he have a fan base, he's a truly artistic mastermind. Which is why like they gave him Army of the Dead, they gave him a prequel, they gave him an animated series. Like they're asking Zack, yo, create a universe for us. And the fact that DC had Zack and they prefer to whatever they're doing now. I mean, I don't know about you. Shazam was all right. Aquaman was good, but like I don't feel any need to rewatch it. What else? Birds of Prey. I didn't even watch Birds of Prey. I saw the Suicide Squad trailer today. It's all right. It's not like it doesn't feel special to me. It's just like whatever. And it baffles me because this is what DC is about. Mythological heroes on an epic scale. This is it. Where like these characters, or yes, they're not Captain America who gets a human who gets a power and is now trying to ascend to godhood. These are gods who are trying to find a way to be human. And this is it. This is your way to compete with Marvel. If you wanted a way to beat Marvel, this was the way to go. And now you're seeing the fruits of it. So I hope, and look, HBO Max is listening. They need content. If you want HBO Max to go up against Disney Plus, you give Zack Snyder his universe. Get Ben Affleck a Deathstroke series. Get Superman. Get Cyborg. Get Flash. Do it. You'll get money. So anyway, thank you very much for coming on here, Rose. This was very fun. We should do this again. As always, guys, look in the comments. You'll see. I'll try and post it again. This is Rose's. Let me see. Adam versus Zeus. Where is it? Here it is. I want to put it in the comment section. Here we go. Yeah, it's a link to his latest video, Adam versus Zeus. You guys should look at that. It's really amazing video. You can subscribe to his channel and everything. And I will see you guys in the next Rebirth or Rose and Rebirth reviews. So thank you very much for coming up. Thank you.
Of course, man. This is always fun. We got to do this again sometime.
All right. Okay.